Hi there, and welcome to Ben's voice narrative. In this class, we want to look at the difference between two phrases. The first is in bed, and the second phrase is on the bed. Again, in bed and on the bed. Now, this class is for two categories of people. The first is you. Yes, I mean you. Now, this first category refers to people who just care about learning their English language for daily expressions, for how that they speak. This class is for this set of people, and I'm sure you watching this video belong in that part. Now, the second category of people that this class is made for are English language teachers and learners within the classroom walls, okay? I mean, within the four walls of the classroom. Now, we're going to get started with the first category of people. I mean, people who only care about understanding the English language for daily expression, for daily usage, and not necessarily having to write all the time. So, what does it mean to be in bed, and what does it mean to be on the bed? Now, in bed simply means to be at a sleeping position, to lie down, to lie on the bed with a covering over you, with a duvet, the bed cover on you. So when you're snuggled under the bed, when you're snuggled up, like you're tucked in the bed with a covering on you, you say you're in bed. For example, I've been in bed all day. I have been in bed all day feeling lazy. Or she has been sick in bed all day. She has been sick in bed. No, she has been sick on bed. Now, in this case, the individual in question is lying down with a covering over them. You can read in bed. You can read in bed. When you read in bed, it means you're lying down, you have the duvet on you, and then you read it. That is lying in bed, or sleeping in bed, or being in bed. So there are three things involved when you talk about being in bed. Three things. The first is the bed. The second is you, the individual who are in bed. And the third is the covering of the bed, the duvet. So this is the structure. You have the bed, you have the individual being in the second layer, and then you have the covering being the third layer. You understand? So when you're in bed, it means three things are involved: the bed, the you, and the cover. I am in bed. My friend has been in bed all day, feeling lazy or feeling sick. So let's come to on the bed. When you're in the bed, it means physically sitting on the bed. Just sitting on the mattress. The bed is actually the mattress or the wooden casing. You are on the bed if you sit down. You are sleeping on the bed if you lie on the bed without the covering on you. So in this case, in the case of on the bed, there are two things involved. The first is the bed, and the second is you, the individual, who are lying down or sitting. And you can also place things on the bed. You can place maybe your pillow on the bed. You can place your cream, your computer, whatever, your remote on the bed and not in the bed. So individuals, we use this expression most of the time for human beings. I am in bed. She has been in bed. I've been in bed. My friend has been in bed all night. Do you understand? Now, this simply means to sit on the bed or to sleep without covering yourself. So two things are involved with on the bed. Two things are involved. You and the bed. And for in bed, there are three things involved. The first is the bed, the second is you, and the third is the bed cover. And you're staying in between. You're snuggled under it. You're snuggled up under. So which means you are between the bed and the cover. Before on the bed, you are sitting on or you are lying on. There is nothing covering you. So when you're reading in bed, for example, if you say you're reading in bed or I'm reading in bed, it means you're lying down with a book in your hands and you have a covering on you. Now when you say you are reading on the bed, it means you're lying on the bed without a cover, no covering on you. You have the book, and then you probably have your leg crossed. Now, if you can see this image clearly, by the way, this is a very terrible drawing. So, if you can see clearly what's on the board, this is the bed, and then we have two individuals on this bed. Now, this person here, this one, has no covering. You can see the leg, you can see the arm, you can see the head, you can see the full body of this individual. This person here can be said to be on the bed. My friend is lying on the bed. My friend is sitting on the bed. All right. Now look at this individual, this mister here. You can only see the head. Look at the head. Now we can see other parts of the body. So you can assume that this individual here has a covering on, has a covering. The duvet is on it. So this person here is sleeping in bed. This person is in bed. This one is on the bed. So three things are involved. For this first person here, you have the bed, you have the individual himself, and then you have the covering in bed. Now for on the bed, you have just the bed, and then you have this individual. Okay, so let's go to the second category of people that this class is meant for. And I'm talking about teachers of the English language or students who are sitting within the four walls of the classroom. You need to pay attention to this part of the explanation. Now, let's go through the structure of these two phrases. The first is in bed and on the bed. Now, this is called a prepositional phrase, a prepositional phrase. Now, this is a prepositional phrase, and this also is a prepositional phrase. Now, look at the structure. Now, pay attention to the structure in bed and on the bed. Now, there are two ways to distinguish between these two phrases, between these two expressions. The first is in terms of syntactic structure, which is word morphology, the morphology of the word, the structure, morphology, M-O-R, morphology. And then look at the morphology of this. You have three words in this structure: on, the, bed, and here you are in bed. Remember that these two are called prepositional phrase. Okay. Now, there are two structures in a prepositional phrase. The first is the prepend, and then you have the completive. The completive is usually a noun phrase or a noun, while the prepend is a preposition itself. Now, look at in bed. In bed, the prepend is in, which is in, and the completive is bed, in bed. Now look at this, the structure. The prepend is on, while the completive is the bed. The bed. Three words in this structure, two words in this structure. Now in terms of morphology, in terms of morphological difference, the prepend here is in, the prepend here is on. Now, and that is where we have a first difference. When you're in something, it means you're inside. Inside. When you're on, it means you're on top. On top. You're above. You're on top. Above is necessarily not the word here, but of course it can always suffice in this explanation. You're on top. You're above. Okay, you're floating on. Now, in, you're not floating in. You're on. In, you're sunk in. You're sinking in. Sink in, not floating on. For on, you're on top, floating on. For in, you're inside, you're embedded. You're embedded in something. Now, let's look at the first difference based on this morphological structure or based on this morphological difference, okay? Now, this in means inside. And when you're into somebody, it means you have a more cozy intimacy with them. So this phrase in bed has to do with an intimate relationship that you have with the bed. A more cozy, a cozy relationship, intimate relationship, affectionate. You're inside, more like you're inside, but you're never inside the bed. You're in the bed. You're inside. You're embedded in it. You're invested in the bed. Okay. And how are you invested in it? You have something that covers you, that gives you warmth. Warmth. It's the covering that gives you warmth, which is cozy intimacy. Now, when you say on, you're bare, you're floating, You are the covering yourself. You're the covering. You have no covering. No covering is on you. So in that wise, you're exposed. All right. So you can say that this shows a lack of intimacy. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. In bed simply means to have an intimate relationship with the bed. On the bed, no intimate relationship because you're just afloat. Nothing is covering you. Here, you're in the bed. You're inside. You're embedded in it. You're covered. So there is warmth. Now, this gives a lasting relationship. And this talks about a temporary relationship, something ephemeral. Now, when you're in bed, it means it could be that you're sitting on the bed for a temporary time. It's not long lasting. You sit on the bed, you can always get up. But when you're in bed, you'll be lasting long in that position. Maybe you want to sleep from night till dawn. You have the covering. Now, for you to leave this position of being in bed, you have to first sit up, remove the covering, and then get off the bed. But in this case, you're on the bed. There is fire in the place. You just jump up. But in this case, you jump up to a sitting position, and afterwards you remove the covering before disembark in the bed. So in terms of structure, in terms of morphological structure, the difference between this word is in the prepend, which is in, and here, on. In means embedded, intrinsic, and this over, on top, floating. Now let's go to the second difference, which is in terms of situational context. Right. We've talked about the structure in bed. We've looked at the structure on the bed. Now, in terms of context, this is now going back to the first explanation for the set of people who want to learn their English language for daily expression. In terms of context, you're only used in bed only when three things are involved. You're used on the bed when two things are involved. So, in recap, in bed simply means to be in a lying position, in a sleeping position, or at a sleeping position with a duvet covering you over the bed cover on you. Three things involved. You're in the middle, the bed underneath, then you have the covering. And here, you have two things involved on the bed and you. You on top of the bed. This, contextually, is temporary. This is more intimate and is long-lasting. The CEO or the MD has been in bed all night. It means he has been sleeping, in bed. He's been in bed sleeping. Three things involved. And here, on the bed. I can just say the MD is on the bed. What is he doing on the bed? Is he sitting on the bed? Is he sleeping on the bed? What comes to mind when you say in the bed? It means the person is sleeping. When you say on the bed, what comes to mind is maybe the person is sitting down or just lying casually on the bed. I hope you've learned something really new. And if not new, you've had extensive learning in this class. And with that, we've come to the end of this class. If you have any question based on the explanation I've made in this lesson, kindly let me have them in the comment section. I'll be glad to attend to them. And if you've learned anything new, kindly also let me know. All of this feedback means a lot to me. Thanks a lot for staying to the end of this video. See you next time.